Understanding your dog's heat cycle.
Hello there, pet parents. Today, we're going to tackle a somewhat sensitive but very important topic, your female dog's heat cycle. Specifically, we'll address the question, is it normal for a dog to bleed heavily during their heat cycle? This is something many dog owners worry about, so let's dive in and understand it better.
What is a dog's heat cycle?
First off, let's understand what a heat cycle is. The heat cycle, also known as estrus, is the period in a female dog's reproductive cycle during which she becomes receptive to mating with males. This cycle usually happens twice a year for most dogs, but the frequency can vary depending on the breed and individual dog. The heat cycle is marked by physical and behavioral changes, including bleeding, which is often the most noticeable sign.
Is bleeding normal during a dog's heat cycle?
Yes, bleeding is a normal part of a dog's heat cycle. In fact, the first phase of the heat cycle, known as proestrus, usually lasts about 9 to 10 days and is characterized by swelling of the vulva and a bloody discharge. However, the amount of bleeding can greatly vary between different dogs. Some might only have a very light spotting that's hardly noticeable, while others may seem to bleed heavily.
What constitutes heavy bleeding?
When we talk about heavy bleeding, it's important to note that this is a somewhat relative term. Most often, owners may be alarmed simply because they're not used to seeing their dog bleed. For many dogs, the bleeding during a heat cycle isn't much more than a human woman's average menstrual cycle. If your dog is leaving drips of blood, especially when she gets up from lying down, this is typically considered normal.
When should I be concerned?
Despite bleeding being a normal part of the heat cycle, there are circumstances when it may indicate a health issue. You should be concerned if your dog is excessively bleeding or if the bleeding continues for more than a couple of weeks. Prolonged, heavy bleeding could be a sign of conditions such as endometritis, an inflammation of the uterine lining, or pyometra, a serious bacterial infection of the uterus. These conditions require immediate veterinary attention. Other signs of concern may include signs of illness such as lethargy, loss of appetite, vomiting, or signs of distress. In conclusion, while it's normal for dogs to bleed during their heat cycle, and this can sometimes appear to be heavy, prolonged or excessive bleeding can be a sign of a serious issue and should prompt a visit to the vet. Always remember, when in doubt, it's better to err on the side of caution and seek professional advice. We hope this video has been helpful in understanding your dog's heat cycle and when you should be concerned. Stay tuned for more pet health topics.